大家好，你好，我是邱乐立律师。今天我们很荣幸可以邀请到我们这边的首席检察官Steve Wolfson 先生。所以呢，我想让我们的华人的社区呢了解一下我们现在当地的这个首席检察官，然后对这个社区有多一点这个研究跟认识。好，Mr. Wolfson, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Larry, and I want to also thank Kent and the people here for giving me this opportunity to speak to the Chinese people here in Las Vegas.
Great. So how long have you resided in Nevada?
Long time. I moved here in August of 1980, so this August will be 42 years. And I moved here from San Diego, which is a beautiful place. And I always thought I'd go back to San Diego, but I just fell in love with Las Vegas. It was a lot smaller back then, though.
What brought you to Las Vegas?
First job out of law school. I was thinking of staying in California. That's where I was born and raised, but there was a job placement at my law school to be a law clerk in the DA's office, and I interviewed and they chose me, so it's my first job out of law school.
And that's in law enforcement, it's your first job?
As a law clerk with the district attorney's office, yes.
Here in Nevada?
Here in Nevada, right here in Las Vegas. And then I took the bar exam. You have to take an exam to become an attorney, and I thankfully passed it. And I was hired as a young deputy DA, and that was 40 years ago, because I'm not a young guy anymore. And I spent 5.5 years as a young deputy DA in the same office that I'm the district attorney in now. So it's kind of humbling for me to say that the office that I'm in charge of now is where I started my legal career.
That's amazing. So you also had a career in criminal defense, correct?
Yes, after a few years as a prosecutor, I met my wife, who's retired Judge Jackie Glass, and we started a family, so she thought it would be a good idea for me to go into the private sector and earn a living. So I spent 25 years doing private criminal defense.
That's very interesting. So you have a good experience in both defending criminal cases and prosecuting criminal cases.
Yeah, I think that's good because I've been doing both. I've seen both sides of something. I can appreciate the fact that when we prosecute somebody, these are human beings. And these are people that, for whatever reason, violated the law. Some of them seriously, some of them violently, others that just, make mistakes. And so I think the fact that I bring a balance and an appreciation for both sides makes me a better district attorney.
Wonderful. So my understanding is that you were on the city council for a while before you ran for a district attorney's office.
Yes, it was 2004. I decided to get into public office, so I ran for city council in Las Vegas, and I won. And then I was a city councilman for 8 years. And then the opportunity came up for me to be appointed the district attorney. And I was fortunate enough, the county commission appointed me. And that was 10 years ago last week.
Wow.
So I've been the district attorney 10 years.
I see. What kind of work did you do as a councilman?
A variety of things. I represented the western side of the city out in Summerlin, Pecole Ranch, the lakes, that area. And we did everything from fixing potholes in the street to granting certain privileged licenses. If people wanted to open up a liquor store or a bar or get certain business licenses, we had to grant them. A lot of zoning and planning, all sorts of things. I really enjoyed being a city councilman because you're meeting people in the community and you're taking care of some of the smaller things a lot of times that people care about. Speed bumps in their community. You'd be amazed at how many people, think about public safety. A lot of people are driving pretty fast, and you put a couple of speed bumps on the streets and it slows people down. And it's little things like that that were important to a lot of people, and it was kind of fun to work on those things.
So enjoy public work and doing things for the public, for the community.
I do. This community has been very good to me. Like I said, I started my career here. I met my wife. I have a family. I raised my 2 girls here. So I wanted to give something back. I left a very lucrative, successful private law practice to become the district attorney, and it's the best job I've ever had. I'm very lucky.
What do you like the most about being the district attorney?
I think the people. It's a large office. There's 700 people in the DA's office, 170 lawyers. It's the largest law firm in the state of Nevada. If you look at any private law firm or public agency, the DA's office employs more lawyers. So there's a lot of people. I love interacting with people. I interact with defense lawyers. I interact with, obviously, people in my office, witnesses. I have a true open door policy. I speak to people when they email me or call me personally, and I enjoy that aspect of it.
I see. What's the biggest challenge you see as the district attorney?
I think the biggest challenge now, Larry, is coming through the pandemic. The pandemic hurt a lot of people in many ways. It hurt people personally. People lost their lives. People lost loved ones. People lost their jobs. People had to deal with simple things like their children weren't going to go to school because they closed the schools down, and they depended on the schools to be with their kids during the day, and now they had to leave their jobs to be with their children. The criminal justice system was critically affected by the pandemic. Good news is we're coming out of it. We are recuperating, we're recovering, and to get back to a sense of norm is the biggest challenge.
I see. I don't think a lot of people realize what kind of crimes does the district attorney's office prosecute, and there's different divisions for different types of crime. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, the DA's office actually has 4 divisions, 3 that have nothing to do with criminal. We have a delinquency down in the juvenile court system. We have a family support division that is in charge of collecting unpaid child support. I have a civil division, which is the division that represents the various county departments if there's a need for legal representation. But most people, when they think of the DA's office, think of the criminal division. We're a big city now. Clark County is the 12th largest county in the country, so we're pretty big. With the size, and we've grown so much since I've moved here, came the need for specialization. So we have specialty courts to address the various needs of people. We have a DUI court, we have a drug court, we have a veterans court. Veterans that are coming back from serving overseas that have PTSD and are suffering, we have a treatment court for them. In my office, we have specialty divisions. I have a team of lawyers that do all the DUI cases, a team of lawyers that do most of the homicide cases. I have a gun team. We have a serious problem in this country involving gun violence.
Do you feel like crime is increasing over the last decade?
You know, I'd have to look at the statistics because I think they go up and down. For example, actually violent crime is down in Las Vegas, but the way they keep the statistics, murder is a separate category from the other violent crimes, so the murder rate is up. The good news is that our primary police department, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, has an over 90% solvability rate. So the police department and the prosecutor's office solve over 90% of the cases, murders I'm talking about, and that's one of the highest rates in the country. Property crimes are up. Thefts, burglaries, stealing vehicles, those categories are up. So it really depends on what you're looking at.
What about DUIs? It seems like it's more prevalent in the news that there's DUI-related fatalities and deaths and things of that nature.
It's a serious problem. It's a serious problem. It seems like almost every day we wake up to somebody who's dying on our roadways. And most of the time when you have a fatality on the roadway, it's due to one of two things, impairment or speed. Now, impairment can be alcohol or drugs. But, I'm a senior citizen now, almost. So I drive much slower than I used to. And it just seems like everybody is speeding by me on a regular basis. We need people to slow down. But yeah, the DUIs are a serious problem. And look at the cases we've had just in the last few months or few years. High profile people, whether it be an athlete or whether it be a very successful businessman that ruin somebody else's life by driving while impaired. And they ruin their own lives. They go to prison.
So one thing that's somewhat controversial is the fact that can a DUI be charged as a murder case?
Yeah, we tried, and we filed murder charges in some DUI cases where the behavior was so reckless and in disregard for human life. Somebody was speeding at 140 miles an hour, weaving in and out of traffic, running red lights, and under the influence. And we filed murder charges, but our Nevada Supreme Court, in their wisdom, says, no, you can't file a murder in those cases. Now, we still file felony DUI charges, and people still go to prison when it's appropriate, but we can't file murder charges in DUI cases.
Yeah, of course, that's the Supreme Court's decision, and I know your office has been trying to make that a something that will be classified as a murder, but the laws and the nuances prevents your office.
Exactly. The Nevada Supreme Court says we can't do it, but there may be an appetite, maybe, in our next legislature, which will meet in 2023, to perhaps increase the penalties for the DUI cases. Murder obviously is a higher penalty than a felony DUI, but if we can increase the penalties for some of the more severe offenders, then maybe we can get a little bit more justice.
Okay. And I remember at one time you had a TV show that that discussed what the district attorney's office does, and it was like on a certain channel, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was on the Discovery ID channel.
What was the idea behind that?
The idea was to educate the people in this community and actually this country about what the DA's office does. These were real cases. These were not actors. They were real lawyers in my office, real defense lawyers, real cases. There was no scripting. There was no drama added other than the real life drama. We were on for 2 years, which was pretty good. County made a little money on it. Okay, I didn't make money. The DA's office didn't make money. The county made a few bucks. But we were able to display the inner workings of a DA's office in real life, real time, and people in this community and people all over the country were able to see how a DA's office really works.
It's interesting, right? Because we're in Las Vegas and there's a certain element of vice and gambling and alcohol and drugs. And then there's got to be rules and regulations that governs that, so things doesn't get out of control. So it seems like that show would be it's somewhat entertaining in a sense, right?
Yeah, and we want people to have a good time. We want people that live here, residents, as well as tourists. We're a fun city. We're the entertainment capital of the world. We have everything that anybody could want, whether you're an adult or a child. It's not just the casinos. We have great outdoor activities. So we want people to come and enjoy themselves, party a little, but there's a line, and you shouldn't cross that line. If you cross the line and you hurt somebody or you cause somebody injury, that's when you've gone too far.
So have fun, but also be safe.
Yeah, have fun, be safe, just don't have too much fun.
Okay. So your wife, her name is Jackie Glass, and she used to be a district court judge, right?
Well, depending on how far you go back, yes, my wife is retired Judge Jackie Glass. I met her 40 years ago in the courthouse. She was a television news reporter. I don't even think you knew that.
I did not know that.
Long time ago when we met, and one thing led to another, and she and I practiced law together for 12 years, but she wanted to be a judge. So she ran for judge, became a district court judge, did that for about 10 years, got a television show for about a year, but now is a private mediator. And she's been doing that 10 years. And I have to brag a little. My wife is one of the best mediators in town. Yes, I'm very proud of Jackie.
Yes, and also your daughter. I think she was in the news recently. She's a comedian, right?
Well, I've got two daughters. I've got Rachel, who's 35, and she just starred in a movie. The movie is called Jackass Forever. It's a little different kind of a movie, but yeah, she's the first female to be in a Jackass movie. Very proud of her. She's a stand-up comic in Los Angeles. That's her primary job. And then my youngest daughter, Rebecca, is an attorney. I'm very proud of her. And she works in the Las Vegas City Attorney's Office.
As a prosecutor?
Yes. She was a prosecutor for about 4 years, and then she transferred over into the civil division.
Ah, I see.
So she's in the civil division now.
I see. So fair to say that your family has always been kind of in the limelight?
Well, yes, we have. We've had some fun along the way, yes.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Because it's interesting because you're in a very serious position, but yet you're also able to step back and kind of do something creative.
Well, you've heard the expression, work hard so you can play hard. My children are grown now, so Jackie and I have 3 dogs, and we go home, we love our Labradoodles. Yeah, you have to have some fun along the way, and that's everybody. You know, you mentioned to me earlier quality of life. We all want to have a nice quality of life. We want to have a nice job that we enjoy, and we want to come home to a family that we love. Yes.
What is your philosophy when it comes to governing? How many employees? 700?
700. I guess my philosophy is to be fair, to be transparent and open. I have, a lot of people use the phrase open door policy. I literally have one. Any of my employees, any of the citizens in this community, if they want to come in and see me, they can. Be personable. Be inclusive. I very rarely make a decision on my own. I like to include other lawyers in my office. I like to collaborate on an issue. I like to hear both sides of an issue. I don't want to hear people just say yes, yes, yes. I want to hear if somebody disagrees, I want them to voice it. That helps me make the ultimate, hopefully right decision.
And in terms of prosecution, it's not just putting people in jail. I understand that you're part of the program that deals with integrity or review of cases.
Yes, we established the first conviction review unit in the state of Nevada. It reviews claims of innocence. So if somebody was convicted and they are in prison, and then new evidence comes about, the most common type is DNA. So a person can be in jail or prison for a long time, and then DNA is brought to our attention, which wasn't previously, and it exonerates them. It shows that they didn't commit the crime. We have this unit that will re-examine the case, and if appropriate, we will determine that an innocent person was sent to prison, and we will cause their release. Yes.
So Steve, you also mentioned that we talked a little bit about hate crimes in Nevada. I think recently there was a big shooting in Chinatown where somebody came in and shot somebody in a restaurant. What do you think about those type of events in this community?
Well, first of all, there are laws against hate crimes. If somebody commits a crime and their motivation is against a particular person because of race, that can qualify as a hate crime. And I don't care what race it is, okay? It is a felony, and we will prosecute people for violating the law. Yes, there was a recent incident in Chinatown involving a business owner and a very belligerent, drunk patron, and they got into a fight and there was an arrest. And it was pretty confusing. But at the end of the day, if we feel somebody is committing a hate crime, we file criminal charges.
Do you have attorneys in your office who is capable of communicating the Asian language?
I don't know if we have, well actually we do have one attorney who I believe speaks Chinese. His name is Yu Meng, but we have interpreters available. So if ever we have a case involving a Chinese person that doesn't speak English, we have interpreters that are available to assist.
So you have victim who doesn't speak English, then you would have interpreters who's able to translate, and also you have district attorneys who also speaks Chinese.
Yeah, I think we have one attorney that does. You know, the first thing though is that if somebody is the victim of a crime, the police department generally is the first to respond. And once they learn that somebody doesn't speak English, the police department will have people that will go to the scene who speak the language. So at the onset of a case, we will assist a victim of a crime so that they can communicate. They can understand and they can communicate themselves. Once the case comes to our office, same thing. We have people that speak Chinese and will assist people. We have, victim advocates. These are people that assist victims in cases, and we have the ability for Chinese interpreters for those folks as well.
I see. And I understand that in your office there's a division that deals with fraud and senior abuse, correct?
Yes, fraud and elder abuse. That's what we call it. We have 2 senior lawyers that work in fraud and elder abuse. Fraud is its own category. It's a specialized type of cases involving theft. Elder abuse, same thing. It's a specialized category because there's a lot of elder abuse, physical as well as mental. Sometimes people that are up in age are victimized by guardians. We've prosecuted guardians that have stolen money from elderly, senior citizens, and I have 2 very good lawyers that work those cases. Good news is I don't have that many cases because there's not that much.
So there's division that deal with population base that's more vulnerable, whether it be due to age or due to just
some infirmity. I mean, if somebody is ill, if they are suffering from some sort of physical health problem, that will come under the elder abuse and neglect section of my office.
So you're currently running for re-election.
I am.
What is your platform for your next term? Any big goals or things you're thinking about?
Well, I think my platform is basically the same as it's been, with emphasis on some change. Public safety is always my number 1 priority. People want to feel safe when they take their children to school, when they go to a supermarket, when they're in their neighborhoods. So public safety is number 1. But at the same time, we are in a society where we're always changing. We're adapting to the needs of society. The George Floyd case is a perfect example. That was an atrocious crime. The police officers that were involved got prosecuted and convicted, and they're in prison. It caused a lot of social unrest, a lot of rioting, a lot of protesting, and we in the system see a need to listen and to make some changes. So we're doing what I call smart reforms. Our criminal justice system has to adjust to the times. Resources are not endless. We have a limited number of resources. We have a limited number of judges, prosecutors, defense lawyers. So we're focusing mostly on the violent crime and the repeat offenders. The non-violent first-time offenders, we're doing something for the first time. We're diverting their cases out of the system. It doesn't mean they're not punished in some way. So many people have a need for drug treatment, alcohol treatment. A lot of people have gambling addictions. So we will get them treatment. We will place them on a kind of informal probation, and we get them the assistance they need quickly, within the first few weeks of the arrest, rather than months or sometimes years later. And if they satisfy all the conditions of a treatment program, we'll divert their non-violent case out of the system.
And that's a better thing for the community, because instead of putting someone in jail, now they have opportunity to be rehabilitated.
instead of putting them in jail, instead of waiting 6 to 12 to 18 months to get them the help they need, because the average criminal case, as you know, you work in these cases, can take months or years to resolve. And a lot of times people aren't getting any help during that time.
Right.
With this Project Redirect program that our office created, it takes these select group of people and gets them help quickly and diverts their case out of the system, and hopefully they don't reoffend.
Understood. I think that's all I have. Thank you very much for your time today.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure. I truly enjoy this, Larry. If any of your viewers want to come in and talk to me in my office, I'd be glad to sit down with them.
Wonderful.